So the day before has released, and it's not quite living up to the expectations that many people had. There's lots of videos and lots of articles written about the game, and what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about what I liked about the game, or the good, what I didn't like about the game, the bad, and the ugly stuff that's come out about the game, about how it's been made, and about previous trailers that we've seen before. So let's start with what I thought was good about the game. Now, you create a character and you choose a server to play on. Now, like any other traditional MMO, you create a character and you choose what server that character plays on, and that's it. That character is going to stay on that server. If you want to change server, you'll probably have to pay to transfer that character across. But unlike traditional MMOs, your character can play on any server. Like the character stored on a central server, and you can play on any server you want. That's cool, right? Because say your friend is currently in game on a server that you can't join, you can go to the main menu and both join the same different server and you can play together. So that is good. Also, I think the design and the look of the city is really good. It's quite dense. There's lots of scatter and cover and broken things all over the streets. It's not just, well, it's not an empty city at all. Many games can feel quite barren, but the city and the day before, there's lots of stuff everywhere. Looks like a post-apocalyptic event has happened in the city. It looks good. There are some buildings you can go inside. I'd say on every street there's probably one shop you can go in, at least like one little shop. It is like a quite small shop and some of them do look the same, but there are bigger buildings you can go inside, like banks. I didn't go into any of the bigger buildings, but I did go into quite a few of the shops. And there's lots of lootable objects throughout the entire map, whether it's bags, boxes, different crates, cars and cash registers. There's, a lot of stuff you can interact with. And I'd say the city itself is big. I'm not sure how big it is compared to, let's say, the city in GTA 5. Maybe it's bigger than the city in GTA 5, but GTA 5 did come out about 10 years ago, right? But for this game, going around on foot, it is a good large map. Plus, you do have some, like, outside the city area, which I didn't really explore because when I got to that point, I just wanted to extract and get out. A lot of negativity about the game is saying that it's not an open world game, but in my opinion, it is. What is an open world, right? It's just one large map, and while this map may not be as large compared to other like single player open world games, in my opinion it is still open world. I'd also say that the gunplay seems alright. There are some like desync or connectivity issues which may be sorted by now, but when I was playing on release there was definitely some desync or lag there, but it seems alright, and the time to kill on players is low. I think headshots are an insta-kill on players, especially unhelmeted players or unarmored players, because there was one player I saw that was running along, got him straight in the head and he went down. He may have already been injured, I'm not sure, but I would say it's a kind of low time to kill on players, and I like games like that. I also think the attachment system is pretty good. It's kind of like a basic system now compared to what we can get if you compare it to Tarkov. I don't think any game will come close to Tarkov when it comes to attachments, but the attachment system, it's alright. But let's now get on to the bad, and we've got a bit of a big list. So the character creator, it is a very basic character creator, right? That's it. There are many games, multiplayer games, MMOs out there that have a far more in-depth character creator than the day before. I was expecting something better from the day before because it was meant to be this really big and great game, but it's very basic. Also, day one, server connection issues. It's kind of expected now with multiplayer games that there's going to be server issues on day one, but that's still not okay. People are still paying to play your game. You should have had a beta test, really, a public beta test to see how many people will try to get in, overload your servers, and then put the infrastructure in place on day one to really have the capacity for more than what you thought you was going to have. But the servers were absolutely awful. I think I spent the first hour of my game just trying to connect to a server. And then when I eventually got into a server, I got stuck in the very first room multiple times, meaning I had to quit back to the main menu and then try and get back into a server. But because of connection issues, I couldn't get back into a server. Then when I got back into a game, back into the room, the door just wouldn't open, meaning I had to go back to the menu again, try and connect to a server again, but then get stuck behind the door again. I did actually see someone stuck behind the wall in the room as well. And to eventually open the door, what I did was crouch and then interact with it, and somehow that made it work. I also noticed that when you change your keybinds, it doesn't actually change the on-screen UI prompts. You can see whenever I'm interacting with anything, it says F, right? Hold F to interact with anything. But many people think I'm weird for doing this, but I use spacebar as interact. And you will never see in this video the game prompting me to hold space to interact with anything. I feel like I need to remind you guys that they said this game was in development for 5 years and they couldn't get on-screen prompts to change when someone changed their key bindings. That seems like a very basic thing, I would say. Now, personally, I'm just not a fan of the small social area they have when I'm playing certain games like extraction games, or we'll say one life, one round based games where I die and I have to go back to, let's say, a main menu or a social hub. I want to just get back into the game as fast as possible. I don't want to have to run around an area, run around to my storage to grab some stuff from my storage, and then run over to a vendor to buy some stuff, and then run over to someone else to maybe hand in a quest or do something else, and then run to the exit to actually be able to play the game. I like how Tarkov and Marauders does it, where it's just a menu. Yeah, it's a basic system, but you know what? It works, and it works really well. You just go into the main menu, quickly hand in your stuff, do your inventory management, and then go back into another raid, not having to waste time just running around doing just shit. I think they're also missing some quality of life stuff when it comes to trading with NPCs, because you have your storage, which you're always going to put your money in your storage so you don't lose your money when you take it out into a raid. Well, you're not going to take your money into a raid because you don't want to lose it. Whenever you want to buy something, you have to go to your storage, take your money out, put it into your inventory, go to the trader to buy stuff or sell stuff, then go back to your storage NPC to drop your money into your storage. Why not just let us use the money that's in the storage? That just makes so much sense. Maybe it makes too much sense for the developers to actually put it into the game. It's just wasting your time of having to run back and forth between NPCs. While I like the attachment system, I think the tooltips are missing so much information for most of the attachments, because they don't actually tell you or let you know in any way which attachments can fit with certain weapons. Now, there are a handful of attachments that say they work only with specific weapons, but there's so many other attachments that don't say what they can or can't be used for, and that just leads to wasted purchases. The inventory system, while it is basic and it works, I've heard there's some bugs around with it, with people losing stuff they've put in their storage or being able to duplicate stuff. I didn't see any of that, but I think it is missing a simple filtering or sorting method for your inventory and your storage system. It really needs something like that. It's so simple, right, to have sorting or filtering. Just put it in. And it also doesn't auto stack items. You could put in, let's say, 27.62 bullets into your storage and you've already got 10 in there, and it doesn't auto stack on top. It puts it separate. It should just auto stack this stuff. I also feel that the land plot or the house and building element to the game is entirely pointless. I think there's no point at all to this system in the game. I think it's just there for you to spend your money on. That's it. I think everything you can put in your house is just furniture. I don't think there's any functional stuff in there, I think. And if there was any functional stuff, why would you go to your house to, say, use a workbench to put attachments on your weapon when you have to go to the social area to buy the attachments in the first place and you can just use the workbench there. I think the house, yeah, just remove it. There's no need for it. Some people are going to say you can access your garage there, but the garage is just a menu, so you can just put that menu into the social area somewhere, right? Okay, so let's talk about actually going into the raids and the actual game. So you can see on Steam, it's advertised as an open world MMO survival game, which it isn't at all. It is an extraction shooter with a handful of zombies around. Well, maybe saying a handful is a bit too much, because generally you'll only see maybe 1 or 2 zombies at any time. And these zombies just are not a threat at all. There's videos out there of people just casually jogging around with a train of zombies after them because they've just been aggroing as many zombies as they can, and these zombies just can't hit them. You can jump on top of a car and these zombies can't do anything. It seems like that these zombies may have been created and the AI for them has just been created just before the game released, because has anyone play tested these zombies? I don't think so. And when you do fight the zombies, I feel that the aim, especially when you're aiming down the sights, is just off slightly. Like the bullet hits just a bit too high above the iron sights. I'm really picky when it comes to stuff like that, because if you don't know, I generally play Hell Let Loose, and I've spent too much time testing any new weapon that goes into the game to make sure it's sighted correctly and test how much damage it does and make videos on it. And I've even found bugs with Hell Let Loose and how the weapons aren't sighted correctly in there, and actually having to tell the devs that your weapons are broken and they don't even realise. So I'm quite picky when it comes to stuff like that. And bizarrely, in this game, a zombie game, there's no melee. That is such a massive oversight. When you think of zombie games, zombie media, so TV shows and films, there's pretty much always going to be someone with like a hammer, a baseball bat, an axe, just smashing zombies to pieces, because really when it comes to a post-apocalyptic thing, the whole thought is that bullets and stuff will become rarer, so you just got to grab something and use it as a melee weapon to smash zombies. But there's no melee in this game, not even a simple like rifle hit or like a butt smash with a rifle just to hit someone back. It's crazy that just melee doesn't exist. It's crazy. It's so crazy. Another just kind of mental thing really is that there's no vaulting in the game. You can't just run up to a chest-high wall or chest-high cover and vault over it. Vaulting has become such a basic feature in pretty much any game now that it really stands out that it's not in this game. So with the game being, well, advertised as an MMO, but it's actually being an extraction shooter, there will be quests to do or tasks to do. But in this game you can only do one task at a time. One. And you can't complete a task in a raid and pick up another one. You have to collect the items for the task, and all the tasks are just collect these items, extract from the raid to speak to the NPC and hand the items in, and then pick up another task and go on another raid. You can't just do a whole bunch at a time. Honestly, why? Why have you designed the game like that? And it's especially annoying because you get constant messages from the AI on the left-hand side of your screen throughout a raid to say, hey, I've got a mission for you. Hey, can you help me with something? Hey, don't forget about me. But mate, I can't help you because I can only help one person at one time. It's just shit. Also, I need to mention that I swear I could only ever see what health my character was at when I went into my inventory. I swear I never saw it on screen at all, even when I got injured, which is kind of mind-boggling. When you're in combat with someone and you get hit, you want to be able to quickly see what health you're at, because maybe you really need to heal yourself if you're low on health, but now you've got to open your inventory first and then have a look. That's just bad, right? That's just bad game design. And when it comes to extraction shooters and being in combat, one of the most important things I'd say with extraction shooters is audio. You need good audio. You need to be able to tell if someone's close. You need to be able to tell where people could be based on the sounds they make. I always say that Hunt Showdown does it really well because there's so many like zombies and other AI in the game that are really easy to kill. You can generally kill any AI monster in Hunt with one hit. And in my opinion, they only exist as a sound trap to let other players know that a hunter is close by because of noise that an AI monster has created either by dying or by getting angry. But the audio when you're going around a city in the day before is really, really bad. The only thing you will generally hear are store alarms because they are constantly going off and they never stop. Sometimes you will hear multiple store alarms going off at the same time. Whoever thought that was a good decision to put into this game should lose their job. Not the person who created the noise, but the person who decided to put it everywhere should lose their job. And as you're going around the city, you will hear lots of gunshots, thinking that, okay, there's a bunch of players over there, maybe I should avoid it because I don't want to get killed and lose the task items that I've got. But pretty much all of these shots are not players. They are just ambient noise that have been put into the environment. And this has been confirmed by other players going to where these noises are and finding nothing, and sometimes finding just the noise being generated from a wall or something like that. It's really bad. Another issue with the city itself is that you cannot extract from within the city. Now, there are some non-backpack extracts in the city, so if you drop your backpack, then you can extract. But you're not going to want to drop your backpack because it's got a load of loot that you've got, or maybe task items. So if you want to extract with actual loot, you need to run out the city to the sort of outskirts in the north. Every single time. Why is there no actual extracts in the city? That's just stupid. And I've never spawned outside of the city. I've always spawned inside the city, which I think's bad as well. Because whenever I've got enough loot or got the items to finish my task, which you can only get within the city, I haven't found any task that made me go outside the city to find stuff. I've just headed for the first extract outside the city that I would see because I need to get out. Even though I'd like to explore all that stuff, there's no point because I just need to get out with all my task stuff. Should also mention that I did come across some audio bugs where sometimes gunshots from my own gun weren't being played. Really odd, to be honest. And of course there are some major and odd performance issues. Sometimes your FPS will just massively drop, seemingly for no reason, and then it will come back up. It's just all over the place. I was playing on a combination of highest to high and medium settings with DLSS on. Sometimes the FPS felt alright, and other times it was just bad. I also need to mention that the player character is 4'6", confirmed.
How tall is my guy? Bro, are you kidding me? Oh no! What the fuck?
So that was quite a bit of stuff I didn't like about the game, and I think many people would probably agree with, especially what I said about what I don't like about the game. Not everyone's going to agree with the stuff that I did like, but there are some really ugly stuff that's come out with the game after it's been released, so let's talk about that. Now, first off, I did mention this a couple of times in the video, but it is being advertised as an open world MMO. It's not an MMO at all. If the day before is an MMO, then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the normal multiplayer mode from that, is an MMO. Hell Let Loose is an MMO. Battlefield is an MMO. It's not an MMO at all. It's gone down the route of what Gaijin Entertainment does, the guys behind War Thunder, where they say that the game is an MMO pretty much because everyone connects to a central server, even though they then jump into pretty much like a lobby-based mode afterwards. It's not an MMO. It's just a lobby-based extraction shooter. And even though I did play the game only for 3 hours, I did put a refund request through, and one of the reasons I put as my refund request is that it was misadvertised as an MMO when it's not an MMO at all. Also, the devs actually said there was going to be a single player portion to the day before, looking at this article on GameRanks, and where's the single player portion of the game? Is it noticed or noted anywhere at all? Nah, it's just gone, nowhere to be seen. Now, even though that the devs did announce a beta in April 2023, we know that this was only then a beta test for volunteers and other people that actually worked on the game, which in my opinion then, that's not really a beta test, because if you're working on the game, no matter what capacity, you're going to be having internal tests anyway. If you're developing the game and not testing it and waiting for a big beta test, an internal beta test, that's mind-boggling. They should have had really a full open beta test, which would have helped to really probably eliminate any server issues they would have had on launch, because people playing a free open beta, especially for the hype around this game, would have overloaded the servers, which would have given the devs so much like data on what they needed and helped them build the server infrastructure for when the game fully launched. Now, there are quite a few accusations going around that the game is an asset flip and it's been made by a whole bunch of assets, and it seems like some of these accusations have a lot of weight behind them. So, looking at some of the assets that people say are in the game, first we have the American City Packs bundle, which is just on the Unreal Marketplace. Many people are saying that this whole pack has been used to create the entire city. Now, some of the items in this pack do look familiar to me. There are also people saying that the Survival Game Kit version 2 has been used in this game, but the main thing is that there is a person on Reddit who is going through all the game files to match them up to marketplace assets. Now, I'm going to say using marketplace assets isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you are an indie developer or have a smaller budget, using assets sometimes is just a good thing to do to whack it into your game and, well, maybe leave it in your game or later replace it with some custom stuff. There are a few games out there that have been built using assets which are really good. I mean, PUBG, no matter what you think about PUBG, I think a lot of people will say it is good. That was made using a lot of assets. That's why there's so many games out there that feel exactly like PUBG, because they're just using the same assets. But what I'm going to do now is put on screen every plugin or asset that this Reddit user, Mr. James Weston, has found by going through the entire game files. I'm not going to say every single asset or plugin that has been included in the game, but as you can see from the list, and it's scrolling down, and by the time you watch this video, this list could be out of date and more stuff could have been found. But you can see there is a ton of assets. I'm going to say allegedly a ton of assets that have been used from the marketplace in this game. And the devs say that this game has been made for 5 years, and there's all these assets and plugins being used. That's pretty damn insane. My thoughts is that every single trailer we saw before February 2023 never existed as a game. I think they were all created as vertical slices, which, if you don't know what a vertical slice is pretty much they make a small slice of a game to show off to people to say, hey, this is our game, or really what the target is for their game. And I think that the game only really existed when they delayed it to say that they were going to Unreal Engine 5. I think that's when the actual development of the game we have now started. And it looks like it may have been started by just buying loads of assets. Because if you do compare the game from the February 2023 trailer to any other trailer that's existed, they are extremely different, and it's quite telling that all the trailers before that date have been removed from the developer's YouTube channel, and that trailer itself has also been removed from the channel. I think a big reason as to why these trailers were removed is because they showcase a lot of stuff that just isn't included in the game. Now, I got this information from BigFrys' video, which I'll try to remember to link his 2 videos he's made on the day before in the description below. But I think he got this information from another list somewhere, which I'm not sure where. But what was shown in the original trailers, like features and stuff that is no longer in the game at all. Now, these trailers are more than a year old, maybe even longer than that. But they showcase a VoIP system with proximity chat, not in the game. The very first trailer they ever showed had snowflakes dropping down, which you could assume there's weather effects, but there's no weather effects in the game. I also think that when the game was first announced, it was announced to be set at Christmas. But in the game we have now, there's just no Christmas stuff anywhere. There was a shootout in a store in a trailer, which showcased some like physics stuff going on with an explosion happening or gunshots happening, which was knocking over objects within the store. That doesn't happen. There's some like zombie hordes, or at least a large amount of zombies being shown chasing down a character. No, there's no large amount of zombies. There's also a crafting system, maybe a basic crafting system that was shown, which the player character is creating some bandages. That's not in the game. They showcase being able to repair vehicles. You can't repair vehicles in what we have now. There's executions on downed players. That's not in the game. A drivable APC shows up at one point. That's not in the game. Also, mud interactions and physics with mud when driving. That's not in. There's no binoculars. Like I said earlier, there's no vaulting. There's no sort of keypads or breaker switches to turn on lights. And also some destructible fences were shown, but that's not in the game. So, like I said earlier, I think all the trailers we saw before the February one were just vertical slices and never existed as a game. They switched to Unreal Engine 5. Maybe the vertical slices were part of a game, but at the very least, I think when the Unreal Engine 5 switch happened, development started there. It could be that everything they created before they got rid of and just started again at that point, which led to them buying a ton of assets, allegedly buying a ton of assets, smushing them together with some custom stuff, and then releasing the product we have now. We also need to remember that the original release date was June 2022. What state was the game in at that point? It's honestly crazy to think of what game we could have got back then, considering what we have now, and it's been over a year since that original release date. So, like I said earlier, I did put a refund request in. I've got 2.9 hours playtime. I said that the game was misadvertised as a survival MMO when it's actually an extraction shooter. I mentioned the bugs, the server issues, and it's just not fun to play, and I did get my refund. Do I think that the day before could actually turn out to be a good game? Possibly, yeah. I mean, if it's been given enough time to actually finish development. I think the early access period, the devs have said, is about 6 months. Nah, not 6 months. I think it needs a few years to actually finish off and make it worthwhile. So with that, I don't recommend buying the day before at all. I do recommend maybe keeping an eye on it if you're into extraction shooters or zombie games. But yeah, I got my refund, and with that I'm going to buy Rogue Trader instead. And if there's one final thing I could leave you with, is that I'd still rather play the day before than Starfield.